I think after having the tea and a little bit lunch, we have become a little lazy. So we need to be little now to get a little bit energy. So now it depends on Christina Korb, that I would request her that within next 30 minutes, please, if she can wind up with the speakers. We have the guests here, one from the university, Vice President of University of Muhammad V. Sir, please, thank you very much, Dr. Cass, and okay, so you can have the seat, and Professor Rahil, you can stay. Yeah, because you will be then on the question. So the next session, for next session is also very much important, but maybe I'm feeling a little bit the low. I mean, the people are a little bit low, so I want that you should be really feel the topic. So roundtable discussion 2 is about importance of strategic relationship between space industry and academia in developing countries. The moderation is by Christina Korb. Christina Korb is a grandiose dreamer. Christina Korb is astronaut wrangler, astronaut manager, space advisor, and president of Purpose Entertainment. For 10 years, she managed Apollo 11 astronaut Buzz Aldrin. She is passionate about promoting ways space benefits the planet and the people every day and promoting women's issue. Nowadays, she is currently working with Apollo 17 moonwalker Charlie Duke and NASA astronaut and aquanaut Nicole Stott. Christina, there is a lot to talk about you, but because of the shortage of time, I give you the floor so the people can see and learn from you by yourself. And then same time, I would request the Professor Ismail Khasso, the Vice President of the University, Muhammad V, to have the place with us here on the stage, and Christina Korb will give you the floor for your intervention. And then we have the Professor Al-Hashmi. Sir, please, you have. Now, I would like to have one volunteer, if there is from the student who can have the question. We want to learn also, we want to know what the students think, that how or whatever their thinking is. One question we can have from us if some student is there, or from our trainees are there. They are welcome to ask the question. One question we will give you at the end. Sir, please. Christina, it is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate you asking me to moderate Dr. Sharif and Shelley from the Space Foundation. I'm honored to be here. I know we're very short on time. We've gone very long over. And so I'm going to actually have our first panelist speak really quickly first. His name is Robert C. Jacobson. He's a multifaceted entrepreneur and accomplished space industry enabler, advocate, and investor. He's the author of Space is Open for Business, the industry that can transform humanity, and a graduate of the University of Southern California and ISU. So Robert, I'm gonna let you take it away, and let's keep this thing moving quickly so people don't fall asleep over there.
Thank you, Christina.
There, Robert? There you
I'm
are.
here. Thank you, Christina. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you to everyone, including Shelley Brunswick and Dr. Sharif. So what do you all think of when it comes to space? What's the first thing you think of? Was it a science fiction story, a memory from childhood, maybe an impression while looking up at the night sky? But for perspective, it wasn't too long ago when the idea of walking on the moon or flying a helicopter on Mars was just not a reality, or speaking to you through this live video. But space to me is really an open frontier for the imagination, as well as a domain for research, work, and exploration. Endless possibilities. So with your imagination, grit, and skills, space can be a canvas for a lifetime of fulfilling personal and professional exploration and achievement. There's a couple of key takeaways: that space has never been easier to access. Space could be humanity's ultimate business plan that could help lift billions of our most vulnerable out of poverty and solve some of Earth and humanity's greatest challenges. But many times Western countries and cultures think that we have all the solutions, and I can assure you we don't. You have your own passions to explore and challenges to solve. But places like the United States and Russia didn't start from zero with their respective space programs. They had the benefit of leveraging German space engineers after World War II, and to some extent a strong university system. But part of this new era that we're in, this new space movement, is about democratizing access to space, and it's starting as a grassroots, ground-up effort. And you have the ability to succeed, go out there and participate in this global industry. It's going to take creativity, zeal, and cooperation, which has been emphasized by many of the previous speakers. So whether you choose entrepreneurship, policy, science, research, they're all equally and valid ways to participate and make a difference. But what are some of the factors that are contributing to this increased activity of interest? There's digitization of almost every sector on the planet, increased investment in space, and more governments, NGOs, businesses are recognizing that space is an area of critical strategic importance and of high value. Although space is not a monolith, it's not a centralized nor a homogeneous power. The industry is broad and interdisciplinary. It's partly why more emerging nations could participate and benefit from leveraging the space domain. And the space domain of the space economy can be thought of in sort of two ways: satellite or non-satellite, or government and non-governmental. But we can actually break down the verticals to many, many more. They include rapid launch and launchers, communications, space-based data, microgravity research, space resources, think mining, space land, envision spaceports, R&D centers, industrial manufacturing, robotics, novel applications, space-based energy, in-space services, stations like crewed and uncrewed stations. So there's really many verticals. It's not really just about launch, although that's a dominant theme. But what are the ways that space technology and development can support emerging countries? Infrastructure development, resource management challenges, disaster risk, improving policies at different levels, and one could surmise that there's probably many other tertiary benefits. And I go much more further into these in my book. But some of the downstream benefits for emerging countries could include a more educated population, better jobs, which equals higher wages, and which governments like, more taxes collected, and increased gross domestic product. But I emphasize that with the interest in satellites to connect and connecting people, there could be second order effects that could occur from increased connectivity through things like offering internet and other communications from satellites, such as reaching populations in remote areas and interactivity, remote training, telemedicine, etc. My belief is that developing a local or national space ecosystem can really be initiated by you. It's not about waiting for somebody to come help or save you. And this effort to participate is not solely limited to those with a background in engineering or hard sciences. We ought to also include business and management schools, trade and vocational, high school, and even primary schools. And we can improve on making space more inclusive and open to all, because the benefits are the creation of additional employment opportunities, STEM fields and space are growing and driving economies, and there's many other reasons which have been well documented. So a few ideas just to create a thriving space ecosystem. Think like an entrepreneur, even if you aren't one in a literal sense. Maybe start a chapter of something like Students for Exploration and Development of Space. Create an accelerator or a makerspace. Reach out to NGOs and industry, develop partnership opportunities. Policy and lawmakers, consider providing loan forgiveness for space science, physicians, and engineers after so many X number of years working in the industry. And let's urge space organizations to continue to provide subsidized and free discounted access to space. I'll reiterate, this is not a passive activity waiting for industry or trade to come knocking on your door. You need to start now, today. And you're here present at this event, so clearly you are active. Becoming an active participant has a lot of different ways you can participate. And there's also publicly traded companies, such as ones that are US and European based, that aren't involved yet in the sector, but they're watching. And they're looking at ways to invest and acquire. So it's time for you to make it attractive for them to start working within your respective country. Although the boundary of space is only 100 kilometers above sea level, we can't see it. So it's easy to forget that accessing space is difficult and out of reach by still millions, if not billions of people in their respective nations. The reliance on space infrastructure and applications could be critical for us in addressing some of humanity's most pressing challenges. And some of the expected growth from the space economy is looking to serve emerging markets. However, I can envision emerging countries creating their own innovations to participate not just as customers, but builders, makers, founders, and leaders in this new space global economy. By starting to develop the partnerships today, it will not only help you in your respective career, but serve as a guiding light for your peers, community, and country on the countless ways there are to engage with this cool sector. There's plenty of room for new bright stars in the growing space economy. You are the emerging voices and future leaders in this global industry that's changing our world and perhaps our solar system as we migrate further out into space. And it's time for you to be bold and courageous with your ideas. Follow your dreams no matter how far out in the solar system they take you, because we're all passengers here on Spaceship Earth, citizens of this wondrous solar system. So each of you has the capacity, though, to be also a crew, leading the journey to make space not just open for business, but open for all of humanity. Thank you, inshallah.
Thank you so much. We're going to go to our first panelist, and partially because he has to go on to another speaking engagement. So this is Mr. Meshach Indorito. I hope I'm not saying that wrong. He's a space systems specialist and space technologist with the African Union, African Space Agency. So Mr. Indorito, did you grow up in Africa?
Good afternoon, colleagues. Good afternoon, Excellencies, Major Generals, Lieutenants, and everyone represented. I must say it's a rich panel and a very rich congregation we have here. Good afternoon. I grew up in Africa and I'm still based in Africa. And yeah, I love to resolve the problems that we have in the continent as well.
So growing up in Africa, you were not exposed to aerospace the way that we were in America and some of the other parts of the world. What inspired you to go into aerospace? And then secondly, I notice you're committed to integrating space technology to address SDGs for socioeconomic development. I too believe that space is the key to solving the SDGs. So what are the ways that you feel that the space industry in the international community, especially with the academic institutions, can address the SDGs in Africa and in the developing world?
Well, as a matter of fact, I didn't join the space sector because there was something specific I really wanted to do. That was when I was in the university. But it started off as, fun, getting into space, knowing that it's a future growing technology. But over time, I have grown into this sector to know that, I can use it to solve some of the problems that we face here on Earth. And as you pointed it right, all the SDGs, the 17 goals of the United Nations, it has been acknowledged that most of them can be resolved with these applications. Now, in Africa, you are right that we are not, brought up in the environment that we have all this to our disposal. But at least one thing that we have over the continent is the space applications, even though the infrastructure is not that distributed. But we acknowledge that in terms of space application, especially the interpretation of satellite data and transmitting that into information that can inform better policy development as well as decision making has been happening. Now, when we narrow down to the concept that you asked about the academia, let me say this, and I want to be general and with all the sense that we are from different backgrounds and that we have different people represented in this panel, including policymakers, and I submit to His Excellency Sheikh Modibo Diarra, who has been through all these facets that I'm going to talk about. He has been in academia, he has been in the industry as well as policy making. But we have to acknowledge and understand that in the developing countries, we are in the middle point. We are being faced by the pressure of shifting from the business as usual models of short-term investment and in the long-term investment of technology. But at the same time, it's true that we don't expect any government to disrupt itself. It's true that we need this disruption, but where does it come from? So we really need the force of the academia and private sector, which is the industry, to accelerate the disruption that we so need. What we have learned through working with the African countries, for example, is that policies most of the time follow disruption. It's when a sector has been disrupted that the government comes in to enforce the policies. And so for the space technology, we don't expect any new thing. The private sector, the academia have to join their hands and they have to provide this disruption in a good way to solve issues, and then the policies will come. Well, the reality of the matter on the continent is that there is no structured funding on high-risk projects like space and its applications. And more so, the banks are not ready at any point to loan such projects either. So we have to innovate within ourselves as the academic community as well as the private industry, and combine our efforts to absorb that risk of iterations, because academia is very good in iterations. They can risk in terms of testing models and testing different technologies. So the ideal way for me is that the startups need to, especially in the developing countries, they need to incubate their ideas and their technologies in universities. And just to sum it all, academia, to me, breeds the capacity and innovation. And the evolution of CubeSats is a good example which came from the universities. And in industry, for example, as we say that we are in the space 4.0, which is industry-driven, the industry breeds invention to me. And therefore, if we combine these two, the academia and the industry, we are going to have a very revolutionary hybrid that can bring solutions. Now, the industry and the academia needs to focus their solutions to people-centered applications, which is what you touched in your last statement, that how can we apply space to solve the SDGs? Well, we need to focus on people-centered innovations, not only doing technology for the sake of it, but when we find the solutions, when we find that integration and that niche, I'm sure that the developing governments, governments in the developing countries are going to acknowledge that we really need this technology to be integrated within the sustainable development ecosystem.
Thank you very much. All right, we're going to go to our next panelist, Mr. Ilya Montanari. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, the head of management and control for the European Space Agency. Mr. Montanari, as the head of management and control, what new innovations are you seeing that you're excited about, and what are the opportunities that you see for partnership with academia in the developing world? Oh, we can't hear you. Oh my goodness, okay, your sound isn't working. Maybe we'll come back to you so that we can try to fix that, the audio issue. Yeah, I cannot hear you. I'm guessing the others cannot as well. I'm gonna come back to you and we'll give you an opportunity to fix that. We'll go on to Ms. Mariska Straw, who is with World Space Week. She's the executive director. So first I'd like to ask you, Mariska, first of all, what do you think the academic community needs to do to bring more women into aerospace? I know it's still a big issue all over the world, even here in America, where it's still very male dominated. And then once you address that, if you could tell us what's going on with World Space Week and what the opportunities are for academia and for people in general to get involved with World Space Week.
Thank you so much, Christina. Let me give you a few numbers first, so we have an idea of what the reality of women in academia and aerospace are at the moment. These numbers are really interesting, but concerning at the same time as well. In 2021, 25% of the workforce in the aerospace sector is female, but that means mostly administrative positions, not technical. That means that the higher you go and the more technical the positions are, less women are present. Same with leadership positions. And I'm not talking about CEO positions. I'm also talking about executives and senior management. There are not many women there. This means that 1 in 4 jobs in the aerospace sector go to women. This is definitely not enough. And if we look at the academia, it's similar. The American Association of University Professors recently issued their report and stated that 31% of full professors are women. This is a 5% climb over the past 75 years. And among this, only 30% are underrepresented minorities. So we can also see differences in salaries, right? Because the women are earning about 80% of the salaries their male colleagues are receiving. Another interesting number that I would like to mention is that 5% of women are pilots. 5% of pilots are women, and only 1% of them become captains. And while these numbers are concerning standing on their own, what I believe is their biggest danger is that they're stagnant. For the past 20 years, these numbers remained mostly unchanged. So even if we saw some progress 20 years ago, we see almost none since then. And this is not only problematic for the academia or the industry as two separate entities, it's problematic for everyone because no one can progress. If not the whole workforce, which is 48% female globally, can benefit from this and can be involved, no one benefits. And this, in my opinion, begins not in the university, but at a very primary level. We know that girls at a young age are showing more interest for sciences and STEM than their male friends, and then somehow lose this interest at the age around 15. Why is that? I cannot really answer. What is to blame for that? I don't know. Perhaps the stereotype of the expectations. It's definitely not performance, because girls outperform their male colleagues in many ways. So if they're not the same, they're sometimes better. And these numbers, yes, absolutely show that girls, young women, students are experiencing a lack of role models. And here is where World Space Week 2021 comes in, because the association, World Space Week Association, where I'm currently serving as the executive director, declares a theme every year. In 2021, this theme is Women in Space. So our goal for this year is to give women, give girls, give young students role models to showcase accomplishments of women globally. And we are going to be dedicating World Space Week this year to women in order to really celebrate these achievements and contributions that women made to sciences and also to the space sector. Yes, Christina, exactly like you and so many of us who are on these panels. And I have to say that our goal is not to just bring awareness to this issue, but also to identify the obstacles, to identify the hurdles that are unique to women. And once we identify those and start talking about those, we can start with proposing solutions. So my hope is that our activities this year, which will be, oh my God, so many. We started a new program with a webinar where we are talking about and talking with women who are working in the space sector to really reach to as many girls as we can, to really encourage them to be involved with the space sector, to really see that there is a place for them here. After all, as I said, there are so many exceptional women who contributed to the development of the space sector as we know it today. And if we talk about this more, then perhaps these numbers will improve. This doesn't mean that we're talking about just women and not men. Gender equality means that we work together, not one against the other, but that we actually collaborate and cooperate. This is for the benefit of everyone, not for one over the other. And this is really important.
Yes, having male allies is a big part of my career. I've had a lot of male mentors, and I think that that's an important part of it. To keep things moving along, I'm going to try to go back. Mr. Montanari, has your audio been fixed? No, it's still not fixed, darn it. Okay, you may have to log back out and log back in and see if we can fix that. I'm going to go to Professor Babayev, the rector of Baku State University in Azerbaijan. Thank you very much for being here. Dr. Babayev, what programs and new innovations are you teaching at Baku State University to attract new students to be part of the space economy?
Thank you very much, Ms. Christina Korb. And also I would like to thank the organizers for inviting us to represent here the oldest and biggest university in Azerbaijan. Concerning your question, I would like to mention that in our university, we have a department of astrophysics, and which prepares the professionals for whole country, and it's also one of the oldest departments in country, and we are preparing to national professionals, the national college. So, and besides, we have recently established Excellence Center on Research, Development, and Innovations. And in this center, we have a special laboratory, which is called Astrospace and Atmospheric Research. So we are combining teaching and research activity in both department and in Excellence Center. And our magistrate level students are passing exactly, in any case, these Excellence Center activities. We have also very good ties with National Academy of Science, and namely with Shamaki Astrophysical Observatory and another observatory which is located far from the country, not from the capital city Baku. It's a Bakabat Astrophysical Observatory. Also, we have good contacts with National Aviation Academy and with other institutions. So we have also a special center for students' research and creative activity, and it's open for 24 hours, and students can come and conduct here, let's say, their time together with other scientists, and by the way, just in 1 month we will have ICESCO meeting at the Baku on reverse engineering, which is quite interesting, and we will be involving other universities to come to our university and to have 4 days excellent event in our university. Briefly like this, but if you have other questions, I'm ready to answer, because I am one of the founders of Space Generation Advisory Council, which was established years ago in Graz in Austria, and also I was one of the organizers of Uris Nights, and now it's called as a Space Week. And so every year we are also conducting such activities. Of course, we have very good ties with Other Cosmos, and the deputy chairman of this Other Cosmos will have special speech today, just after this session. And I hope he will give detailed information. That's why I'm not going to be focused on this area.
Sure, please share in the chat if you can. Mr. Montanari, do we think we have audio now?
Let's try. Last time.
There we go. Thank you. All right. Thank you very much, Professor.
Third time lucky, as they say.
All right. Well, so I'll ask the question again. Are there any new innovations that you've seen recently that you're excited about? And are there any opportunities that you see specifically for the developing world in relation to partnership with ESA and the academic community?
So I will kind of say what I like, what I've seen today, and what I like a lot, because I followed most of the webinars and the conference, and many people have basically built on the blocks that I believe they are very useful, and then I will summarize them and just show you very quickly what how basically we operate also the European Space Agency. So one of the things that I heard is fail fast and fail well. This is actually something that requires good policies, and also kind of protecting like intellectual property. That's very good. And including, for example, also this Artemis Accord that NASA and many other governments have put together in order to come together and basically do lunar exploration. If you don't have this sort of framework, it's very difficult actually to take risks. Okay, so maybe the element number 1 of this recipe is basically implement an entrepreneurship favorable environment and political environment. Okay, and then I'd like everybody to think, because I see that there are many political representatives, including academia, and so to think about space as now an economic market, so where there is demand and supply. In this particular case, the supply, you know, in the typical 2 axes, where the horizontal one is quantity and the vertical one is price, you will see that basically the supply goes up vertically in the other way. So it's particularly interesting now that the space is moving out of the classic role of an oligopoly, or let's say very, you know, dedicated to very powerful, you know, superpower, Russia, you know, thing, space race type of thing. So that's actually not true anymore. So the important thing that we need to realize that now we're moving more into the role of competition, okay? And therefore, what we want to do, we want to shock positively the supply by creating more entrepreneurs, right? And in order to create this increasing number of entrepreneurs, we need STEM. STEM, so basically science and technology and so on. And this is extremely important. There was another speaker that raised the point, and I believe it was the Professor Greg, that shows how many of the specialties and subjects are used in the space domain. So it could be material, it could be telecommunication, it could be anything, it could be engineering. I'm an engineer myself, I'm a chemical engineer. So for example,
your video is
this is actually, but you need some sort of additional, called basically the demand. So in order to implement that, you need to attract basically private capital. And the way that, I mean, the specialist obviously is US, but also the way that we have implemented in Europe is basically priming the market, right? To give the initial layer, build your prototype, and move on by attracting additional capital that is actually private. What I'm going to provide you, is a dashboard that is actually online, and I'm going to speak very briefly about that without going through too many details that you should be able to see by now. It's just to say, so basically the European Space Agency has invested a lot of money over the last 10 years, and this is this figure that is about 430 million euro. Okay, and what has generated, and this is also what is important in order to basically create this three-legged recipe that I mentioned before. So you need to prime the market, and then basically you generate revenues. As soon as you talk about revenues in a political environment, you basically say, okay, this is tax payable, and therefore is interesting to me. Okay, so that's the first element. Second element is 1.7 billion euro generated in additional investments. Okay, so this is a rather remarkable figure, and it doesn't take into account the recent, craziness about SPAC and stuff like that. So it attracts additional investment, and you start becoming, in particular in Morocco, for example, you have recent experience of becoming part of the global value chain, for example, of automobile type of value chain. And this is, again, very interesting because you start becoming part of this and you reap the benefit also through the specialization. The jobs and the share of companies that have been created is actually going to SMEs. Why is SME important? Because these sort of jobs are the boom, at least for the European economy, and we believe they could be the perfect gear also to develop our neighbor Africa, Northern Africa, and the Middle East. This dashboard has multiple elements. So, for example, it touches upon also patent and grants, and not least, and just kind of talking what, kind of handing an applause also to my previous speakers is being, yes, there has to be a good share of female. At this moment, what we are looking at out of the data, we are talking about the data from the past. We're looking at 30% female employment, but also the SDG. And in fact, here we are looking at the purpose that goes beyond, let's say, what is the normal financial elements. I like to conclude this. Yes, you've seen my numbers. I'm a guy that works very much in the, in counting people and money. I'm very proud of this, but I want to make it sure that this is actually in order to generate and stem additional investment. So I'm very proud of this, and I'd like to consult or to provide my services for the future, also for this aerospace in other countries and for its democratization. Thank you very much, Christine.
Thank you. I would like to pose the next question to Mr. Mohammed Rachi, the president of Mohammed V University. Is he on the Zoom or is he in the room?
Yes, I'm representing the president.
Okay. My question is, it's the president's responsibility of a university to decide what investments to make in the university. So how do you make decisions relating to space and space education when the technology is moving so fast?
Okay, thank you for your question. I want first to put a remark on the role of a university. The mission of a university is to develop education, research, and also services to society. When we talk about services to society, we mean innovation. And for our university, what are our contribution now for developing space science and space industry? First, we have developed in education training program related to space industry, mainly in embedded systems, in computer science, in imaging, electronics, aeronautics, advanced material, and battery. And those programs were created mainly in engineering schools. Also, we have 5 ongoing research projects. Those projects are on developing nanosatellites, on some parts of satellites, I mean remote sensing and imaging, also how to use satellite imaging for developing the country. We have actually now 25 PhD students working on their thesis on space industry, satellite, and application. And also we have developed 10 patents in the fields of space industry, and we are trying to work with some companies in order to develop some startups or spin-off in the fields of space industry. We are also trying to develop collaboration with other international universities that are leading in space science. So we have made a survey on what are the leading countries. So for example, if you look at the publication, you see that the leading countries in United States, it's China, United Kingdom, Germany, etc. So those countries, we are developing cooperation with them in order to increase capacities of our research teams. Also, there are some specific regions in the world that are very strong in space industry. So we have identified 20 of those regions in the world, mainly in United States, in Japan, in France, in Germany, Korea, China, and Russia. And we are trying to work closely with the university located in those regions in order to enhance and increase our capacity and competencies. Also, what we are asking our government to do is first to increase funding for, public funding for the universities. In all the countries that develop space industry, it's the government who try to develop this industry with the help of private company. Also, we need some specific legislation, because when you are talking about space, you have to develop specific legislation about that. Also, in Morocco, we have a small market, so we have to develop local market in order for companies to invest in space industry. Mechanism to develop a bridge between industry and universities, it's also important. We have also in Morocco one industrial cluster which is dedicated to space industry. So we are working closely with them, and I talk about that. The government should develop international collaboration with national agency, space agency from other countries. So I would just give you a summary of some recommendations on how to develop collaboration between companies or industry and universities.
Can I just, and we have the recommendations at the end. We will publish the recommendations.
Okay, okay.
So if you conclude the question, we have the recommendation session. We will give the recommendation to the universities. This we have here prepared.
Okay, so just to end my talk, the university is putting a lot of money on research, on training in many thematics, but the thematics of space industry is very important for a country like Morocco, because we are an emerging country. We are trying to develop our industry, and we know that the countries that are not developing the space industry will have a lot of, will be depending on other countries that are more developing. So that's why the university wants to emphasize on developing training and research on space industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And moving right along, I'm actually going to go to Ms. Rania Tukabri. I can't pronounce your last name, Rania. You can you can pronounce it properly, but you're a space engineer, space strategy consultant. Are you in Tunisia? Is that where you're based?
No, I'm originally from Tunisia, but basically now in Germany.
Okay. So the question that we discussed prior was, in your opinion, what is the most efficient framework to develop space R&D and to link it with the space market? And what are your recommendations for the academia industry cooperation?
Thank you so much. So let me just start with the issue that I find really very challenging. So I'm a perfect example to this question, actually. I'm originally from Tunisia. I have my first diploma was Tunisian, and then I got others in different other countries in Europe and USA. And I couldn't really apply it in my country because we basically didn't have any space industry, any space market to make it happen. So I'm actually also regional coordinator for Africa in Space Generation Advisory Council, and I think many people mentioned it today. So I'm really glad that that it has been really spread around in the world. So I can tell you from here that we in African countries, Islamic countries, and mainly developing countries, we are not really able to make this transfer of academia to industry smoothly, or we are probably not doing it properly. So as I have heard also today, we do need really to make a clear framework to make it happen. And the stuff is that we should really make it for the local market, not really for the global market or for other local markets in developed already or spacefaring countries. So in my opinion, what I have seen so far in many European countries is that has been done in 3 different phases. So the first phase is basically to identify or try to map the different technological requirements and the future needs of the country. So that's gonna be very helpful in order to have things aligned and not to have really lost capabilities. The second thing is that we should really remember what kind of existing cooperative relations we had so far on Earth-related technologies, for example, between the universities and the industry, the SMEs and so on, and what have been the different challenges so far. And also, it's very, very important to try to understand what are the most effective methods and mechanisms for the transfer of the results. And then the second phase is basically to try to set the priorities. So we try to set these identified requirements with what we already have in our local needs. For example, in Africa, we have 4 main pillars for the Earth observation, for the navigation and positioning, for the astronomy and research. We don't do a lot of space exploration because we don't need it. So we do need to create the kind of space applications that are aligned with these specific axes. Then we do need, of course, to integrate it properly. I also have heard it today. It has been very well explained in the previous presentation by having this kind of like numbers that should be affected to each section, to each phase, in order to have the proper funding and the proper cooperative mechanism for this academic to industry technological allocation. Then, of course, we do need to have this coordination and this harmonized planning between the 2 axes, the industry and the university development, of course. Okay, let me just say one thing. So there is a big issue that I consider really very important to raise now in front of you. So here we have the global collaboration between the spacefaring countries and the developing countries is not very well exploited for the benefits of the developing countries and for the global market. Because if you see that some members of the global community are not really well advanced in a space global market, we have something non-balanced in the global market. So here, for example, the university research that are already on paper and the human capabilities that have been developed on certain developing countries, like my case, for example, they are already applied in other spacefaring countries, like myself in Germany. That is, I'm currently trying to identify the new technology, the quantum technology, the new ways of cybersecurity. I cannot really do this in Tunisia or in Africa in general because we don't have enough conditions to make it possible. So unfortunately, or let's say fortunately for the global market, I'm doing it for everyone, but that's really unfortunate for Tunisia because they will stay consumers of space. We haven't moved yet from this idea of consumer, and I have also heard today that we should really move to kind of what we call from consumer to producer of space products, and that's very important. And again, for recommendations, probably the two recommendations I provide here is to allocate enough budget for the like the industry should support the university and center research for this, like it has been the case for ESA, for example, and NASA as well, and also to try to make this offer of grants to students like better, to encourage them to make more research, and also what we call the continuing development of the employee in the space industry to make the link with the university students and so on. So there is a lot of things also on legal side that we do need to support, like in general in global side and also in the developing countries, concerning the intellectual property, concerning how we should really support the SMEs to develop new space projects, innovative space projects, and to support people to make their startups starting from a lab from university, like it has been the case in many European countries. So that's my experience.
Thank you very much, and thank you for keeping it nice and short. We have two panelists left. I'm going to go to Professor M. Abdelaziz Banjoud, and I'm sure I'm botching that as well. Are you in the room as well, or are you on the Zoom? I think maybe he's in the room.
Hello, thank you, Mr. Sharif, and good morning, good afternoon, everybody. And my name is El Hashmi Sadiqi, and I am the Dean of Aerospace Engineering School, and I am representing the University International of Rabat, Mr. Benjouad, the Vice President of Research and Development. Just to be brief, the University International of Rabat, we have an engineering school of automotive and aerospace engineering school. We have 600 students, and we have a partnership for master studies for academia with the Mississippi State University and with also Georgia Tech Institute of Technology in Atlanta and also in Lorraine in France. They are the same. And then we have the program, the people, they will do their study in the 5th year. They're doing master and they will have 2 degrees. And you are studying in English in Morocco. So that's a little bit of an exception. So just to do the environment that we are operating here, of course we are very lucky in Morocco. We have an industrial environment in aeronautics and automotive that is growing. We started from scratch, but we believed on that. There was a plan, and then we are working on that. So the aerospace engineering or the aerospace or the space industry is connected to that. We are not starting from scratch. Now, the knowledge, the source for the creation of knowledge is universities. But to have this knowledge be useful, we have to apply it to the need, to fulfill the need of specified needs for the society. And for that, you need industry. So there is a need for linkage between university and industry to have an environment to produce wealth, welfare, and so on for production. Also, to do projects in aerospace or in any industry, you need financial support from the government and also from the industry. That's this linkage. It's very, very important. If there is no finance, so this is one of the recommendations for this UIC, that means university, industry, collaboration. You need the involvement of the government and the industry to do that. So just to have, I will be brief, I will not be very long. So for this environment to be productive, we have to have 3 factors that are very important. Management mechanism to do it in the university. Also, we have the innovation climate. And also what is most important is to have a reward system. People who are working, who are inventing, they have to be rewarded. Otherwise, if everybody are equal and we are not giving credit to the people who are working hard days and nights, there will be no system. I think this is the 3 factors that will prepare the environment that will create this. Of course, we have transfer of technology. not only inside Morocco, but also from university to industry. But you have also transfer of technology between the African countries with MENA region and also with the Islamic region. So we have to have something concrete. We start with the very small project. You have cube site, you have many things, you do that, and then you improve things into that sense. In Morocco, we are very lucky also as well because we have regionalization. And then we have in the region of Rabat, Kenitra, Saleh, we have a collaboration with our colleagues from University Mohammed V, also Kenitra and University International Rabat. And very soon we will have also the University of Mohammed VI, which is a very famous, a very dynamic university in this area. So for the environment, of course, we don't need just the study in aerospace. We have the application in agriculture, in forestry, in fishery, and we have all this background that we are having. Of course, from the science point of view, we have artificial intelligence, we have big data treatment, and we have in our university the Department of Computer Science that is looking into that. And we have cooperation inside the university, inside the region, inside Africa, and so on. And of course, we will cooperate also with the international countries through the institution like United Nations and the space agencies that we are having here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have one more panelist, last but not least, Mr. Oladani Paul. Actually, he and I have known each other at least over a digital realm for quite a while, and I know that he has been trying for a long time to raise and elevate space in Nigeria. So, Paul, I know that you've got a lot of challenges to that, and you're still working through all of them. Love to hear more about what inspired you to get into the space realm, and what are the challenges, and what do you think that needs to happen to bring Nigeria into the space economy? You've got to unmute Mr. Oladani. Oh no, is he frozen? Mr. Oladani Paul, are you there? I can see you on my screen, but he might have not great service. Are you there? There you are. Okay, can you unmute so we can hear you? Oh no, we can't hear you either. There's an issue with the sound. It must be a similar thing as the other, and you're our final panelist. So of course the technology doesn't always work the way that we want to. Dr. Sharif?
Yes. Yes.
Do you want me to have Mr. Oladani try to
Hello?
There you are.
He's there.
Hello?
There you are. Now we can hear you. Did you hear my question before?
Hello? Oh my
Can
God.
you hear me?
So,
We can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Did you hear my
Can you
question?
hear me?
Oh, I think we're dealing with some technical issues.
so
We
if
need
it
to
is
get
a
the
technical-
Starlink going over Nigeria.
Christina,
Well,
Can you hear me?
we can hear you. Why don't you, if you could just speak real, we only have 5 minutes and then we have to wrap up.
Okay. It's nice to be here, and it's nice to meet you one-on-one. And it's a golden opportunity to be here. When I look at this topic, I think I'm the most qualified person to talk on this topic, because from the background which I came from and how it has benefited me and the entire continent of Africa. I was privileged to have been sponsored by the federal government as an undergraduate student, and to be the first African undergraduate student to ever participated at SGAC and IEC. And today I'm very, very happy to hear lots of people coming from SGAC representing SEST. And I believe that some of them don't know the history of SGAC or how everything started. So it's an opportunity to work within the university. Sorry, I'm trying to fix my audio.
Christina,
Yes.
I think we don't hear at all in our hall here. I think there is a
Okay.
problem. So what we can do, we can request him to record the message and we will put it on our page. Yeah, we have already the page created for this, and then his message
Okay,
we will,
can you
we
hear
will
me
pass
now?
through to our audience. Is that okay?
Yes, I will send him a private chat asking him to do that. And thank you so much, Dr. Sharif, Dr. Saeed, Shelley, for asking me to moderate. I was very honored to participate, and I appreciate being included in those wonderful conversations. Thank you very much.